think what happens a lot of times, though, I hear people talk about we tolerate so much in our culture now, and so I think we have a tendency to lower the bar instead of keeping the bar high and knowing this life I'm probably never gonna get there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I should lower the bar. That still should be my goal. Involves the physical, and I think the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual, really. All get wrapped up in desire. So there's a big difference there. If we try to put it just in one area, or it's all about the lust part of it, you miss so much.
What is the difference between lust and desire? Is it okay to lust in marriage, and why or why not? Today we're talking about the difference between the two and how to handle desires in a holy and healthy way in your marriage. This topic can look pretty murky, so today we're going to clear up the difference between lust and desire. So, Dr. Kim, let's start by defining the terms. What is lust?
Well, I think lust is really more focused on the physical, the sexual attraction, about getting your needs satisfied, your urges that you have, not really having an emotional connection with that other person or have deep feelings about that person. And it's usually something that's temporary. It comes and goes, so it doesn't last. So I think it's really more about what you see, what you're attracted to, and what can it do for you and that part at that point.
So it's more of a taking.
Yeah, I think that's a really
getting.
good way to say, because usually if you just think about lust in general, sort of associated with pornography a lot of things in sex that are very self-oriented, for sure.
That's a good point.
Self-gratification.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I think too, if we look at scriptures, lust is never mentioned in a positive light. It is only mentioned as a negative. Jesus defined, even looking at someone with lust in your heart as adultery. So that's, when you would look at someone with a taking or self-gratifying motive instead of looking at them as God sees them.
Absolutely. Mentally undressing them, mentally thinking about sex with them, maybe all those kind of things that, I think Jesus just took it a whole new level.
Yeah.
Because I think before adultery, okay, I never have slept with anyone but my wife.
Sure.
But what if you'd lusted over your next door neighbor or the person that you see here or there, or pornography and things like that? Well, Jesus defines that as, that's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good distinction to make to begin with, because if we look at, following Jesus, his way is not to be ever taking. He came to give, to serve, to help,
Exactly.
to heal. And so that's where he's coming from.
Well, I think to know in that culture, there were a lot of sexual bad things going on there.
That's
There
true.
were
Yeah.
temple prostitutes,
Yep.
and yet all these things that were just crazy. And
Yeah.
and so it wasn't like they lived in this puritanical, I don't even know the right word, culture at that time. No, it was probably ever a bit as bad or worse. We just access things in different ways now.
That is such a good point. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think it's really easy to read that scripture and think, well, back then it must have been different. He didn't have a smartphone in his pocket,
Yeah.
But sin was every bit as sinful. People were every bit as broken at that time. And if you read into the cultural context, you really get a clear picture of that from the Old Testament all the way to the New, that Jesus was always elevating the dignity of every person, which at that time, women and children didn't have dignity, personhood, status whatsoever. So his protecting of that and placing all people as equal under God is huge to begin with. And I think that's something we can certainly carry forth, that nobody's
Absolutely.
here to gratify us. Everyone's here made by God.
And to know that wherever we are or wherever we've been, there's forgiveness. When Jesus, the woman caught in adultery, and how he cared for her, and it changed her life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really beautiful. That's a great place to start too, because, like you said, Jesus raised the bar, and none of us can jump over that bar.
No.
Never will.
We're all going to, no.
Yeah.
No. And it's like, I think what happens a lot of times, though, I hear people talk about we tolerate so much in our culture now, and so I think we have a tendency to lower the bar instead of keeping the bar high and knowing this life I'm probably never going to get there.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I should lower the bar. That still should be my goal. That still
Mm-hmm.
is what God's best is for me. And
Yeah.
so if I lower it down to what I'm comfortable with or what culture says is okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't think that works.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And I love that we're starting there because that's really, I mean, the whole reason that we have faith in Jesus is knowing that we won't ever clear that bar, but that he's already taken care of that through his
Yeah.
life, death, and resurrection. And so there is grace and forgiveness. Wherever you're coming in this conversation, he has got freedom for us. So that's a really great place to start.
Yeah. Paul vaulted way over that bar.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Way
Yes.
over that bar.
Yes, yes. And took us with him,
Yep.
for those of us
And
who
there we
have
go.
faith.
That's right.
So that's quite the image. I love it. All right. So that's really good. So that's lust. Let's go back to defining the terms. How would you define desire on the other hand?
Well, I think there's obviously physical attraction there,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be a desire for not only the fit, but the closeness,
Mm-hmm.
the things we talk about, an emotional connection, the companionship,
Mm-hmm.
that desire that comes along with being attracted to someone.
Mm-hmm.
It should be deeper, more enduring, or less we talk about being so fruitful. I think it's the physical and the emotional parts. And you want that deeper connection. That's where
Mm-hmm.
that real desire is there. And involves the physical, and I think the mental,
Mm-hmm.
the emotional, and the spiritual really all
Mm-hmm.
get wrapped up in desire. So there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
You may, it might start with the physical attraction, but it
Mm-hmm.
goes deeper. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I think relationships, most relationships start with a physical attraction.
Mm-hmm.
If the first time you looked at Brian, if you'd have thought, well, he didn't fit my MO at all,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't have probably looked again.
Mm-hmm.
But he did, and you did, and so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've got to have that you've got to be physically attracted to that person to start with.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You're not going to go, that guy is so ugly and he's so
Right.
scrawny looking, and I don't want to be around him. No, it's
Right.
like, I like this guy. He looks
Yeah.
like he could be I want to get to know that person better.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Well, so there's a purpose. So let's talk about the purpose that desire and even more specifically sexual desire does play in a marriage.
yeah, because I think it does a lot of things, and I think it helps the overall health and the strength of the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I think the physical intimacy part of it obviously is part. It's that unique connection that a couple has.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I mean, when a couple develops a sex relationship together, nobody else will ever have what they have
Mm-hmm.
because they're individual and unique, and so it's a really special thing for each couple.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an emotional connection that goes along that. There's a bonding with that. When we have sex, we know that oxytocin is released,
Mm-hmm.
which enhances those feelings of love and trust and that closeness and attachment between a husband and wife. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the cool things God put in there for us. Communication, vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
I think those things that are so important in a marriage can happen in a sexual relationship. Being open with each other it was really important in that. I think the other, some practical things. I think it's a stress release. It's because sex is known to reduce stress, improve sleep, boost our well-being, and when you're in a relationship with someone and that desire is being fulfilled that way, it's really special.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as we talked earlier, I mean, sex is for procreation for sure, but it's also for fun to really, really enjoy. Somebody said, "What is it that sex is the most fun you can have without laughing?" But sometimes you can laugh too,
Yeah.
But there's just so many good things that come into sex, and I think if we try to put it just in one area, or it's all about the lust part of it, you miss so much that the desired definition allows to grow and flourish in a marriage. And just to be thankful that is one of the avenues God gave you to grow those really important areas of your relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's good. I think it's really important to start with the purposes of sexual desire and of attraction because we hear a lot about the negative parts. And
Yeah,
there is a lot. There's a lot there. A lot can come with that, but it's created for purpose.
absolutely. And that's where where we get the difference in sex in a marriage,
Mm-hmm.
Christian marriage relationship. That's what sex was really designed for. And so it's not like God saying, oh, I don't want you to, he's not being a prude. He's not being whatever. He designed us a certain way. And when that's fulfilled in the way God designs it, that's why I always say that the best sex you can have is going to be in the context of a Christian marriage, because everything can fall into play, and it just naturally happen. We still have things we have to talk about and deal with, and all those kind of things. But that is where it can be the best it can ever be. And it's because it involves our entire being in the sex relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's a really great point. And I also, it's, God created it and he placed it within this purposed context. So it's not like you're not going to enjoy it if you have it in a different context, but you're just missing a whole lot of what you could be experiencing of the created purpose. And so almost to like try to take that, creation without the creator, you're going to experience it. It's not in the intended way, which is with purpose and fruitfulness. And I'm not just talking about having children, but with the fruit of drawing the relationship together.
Yeah.
Versus outside of that context, it's going to bring destruction because it's going to be emotionally entangling, confusing, getting needs met in ways that aren't helpful, all these kind of things that can happen.
Absolutely. No, that's well said. It is. It's just not getting, you want to get the most out of God's gift.
Yes. And I think that's helpful to know too, whether you've been married for 50 years or whether you're not married yet, this desire isn't a problem necessarily. It's purpose, but if it's out of context, then it can become problematic. So to know that there's an appropriate use for it, appropriate design for it, I think is really helpful for perspective.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I think, and just embracing it, just embracing that is part of the gift that God gave us, is to have that. And when we're fulfilling that desire, playing it out in the way God designed, that's just doesn't get any better than that.